we believe that there is a balance in copyright law. All the copyright laws that have ever passed have not just been, in favor of one party, but especially when we're talking about internet communications, there's a very fine balance between the rights of the copyright owner, the rights of users to express themselves, and the ability of ISPs to distribute content and to be an intermediary.
The problem with the DMCA, however, the anti-circumvention provisions, is not just that it has failed to stop piracy, and for that matter, it has also failed to be an enabler of new business on the internet.
The DMCA is a very tangible and we think very aggressive example of this preoccupation with protecting digital rights, potentially at the expense of folks who legitimately need to get a hold of content and frankly have paid good money for it.
And essentially the lawsuit said that we were violating the DMCA and we were by breaking the CSS encryption that's put on each DVD.
And this is not an uncommon legislative tactic, because sometimes when someone says I have a problem, the legislator can ignore them, he can help them, or he can screw them.
Once you break that encryption, it doesn't matter if it's a fair use because you own the content in question. The law is blind, and so once you break that CSS encryption for whatever use it's for, you have broken the law of the DMCA.
And the way you screw them is basically by putting language in that appears to be an exemption, or appears to address their concerns but really doesn't.
Time Warner said that we should ask permission every time we wanted to use any clip in class. There are obviously lots of problems with such permission system. The biggest, though, is that it could become a form of censorship, and we wouldn't want professors to have to ask every time they're going to use an example in class. They don't have to do that with books. It shouldn't be done with digital media.
Obviously, this is not what Congress intended when it was passing the DMCA, and it would mean that people could use this law that was really intended to protect content providers and software manufacturers from piracy to essentially control competition in ways that are really problematic for consumers and generally for the marketplace.
We were very worried that the effect of this new non-copyright or para-copyright regime would be to override some of the culturally and economically significant flexibilities that exist in copyright law itself.
I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible for everybody. I think it's bad for the consumer, I think it's bad for the innovator, and I think it's bad, frankly, for the movie studio.
If the price of that is a few infringements slip through the net, well, that's the price you have to pay. You need to let all the dolphins, all the fair users, out of your big copyright drift net. We're trying to find the best way to get that job done.
So if you were to have asked me then, what was the covert agenda of the DMCA, my answer would be to usher in a set of legal conditions that would enable the emergence of a ubiquitous pay-per-use information environment. Now that hasn't happened in 10 years, but I'm not convinced that the risk is past.